or talk much more about that. Matthew Klopfenstein is a new commitment for Baylor. Another highly rated player that commits to Dave Aranda, a tight end, which, of course, as you know, Paul and Craig with Jeff Grimes and what they do with the offense is something that they are just like gathering as many of them as they could possibly get.
Yeah, I mean, the other day I was out there at practice and, kind of noticed that although they've got some guys, Ben Sims and Drake Dabney, I think are going to be the primary, for sure be the primary guys this year. But then, a couple of the younger guys like Kelsey Johnson and Cody Mladenka, even though he's hurt right now, or at least was last weekend, they're coming up. But just kind of looking at 5 guys in that group last week, it looked a little light. And, I know that's a position that they use often in what they do in terms of not only blocking but receiving. And, the fullbacks last year the tight ends last year, sometimes they were lining up at fullback. Sometimes they were lining up at H-back. Sometimes they were a traditional tight end. Sometimes they were in 2 tight end sets. Sometimes, they used it in a variety of ways. And so, yeah, they need a bit more punch there, and we're seeing them, address that head on in these last couple of recruiting classes, bringing in like 3 guys last year. They're going to probably bring in another 3 guys this year, and, you're going to lose Ben Sims next season. So they're just preparing for the future, and, huge pickup, 4-star guy, a lot of, nice attention surrounding him, and just continue to bolster those positions of importance.
Well, Dave Aranda said in the interview you had with him yesterday, Smokey, about tight end and the focus and how the NFL has changed its view of it. So, look, if you're going to recruit a roster with NFL players, there has to be a different focus on tight end. And outside of Oklahoma and Iowa State now recently, if you really look back at the last few years of the Big 12, it's been very deficient. I know as someone who had to vote in the AP All Big 12 team for several years, getting past to the first tight end, Mark Andrews is from this league. Great. Who's the next best tight end after Mark Andrews? No one, because it wasn't what the offense was doing, and part of that was Baylor's offense that used the tight end as an offensive lineman that could run routes, essentially, and block further down the field, and the way they kind of snuck things around. And now you're starting to see the renaissance of it, and part of that is because the league wants tight ends that can block and catch and run, because they're hoping to find the next Travis Kelce or Darren Waller or guys like that.
I know that because of the offense that I would run, and I understand how important it is now in this day and age of what is wide open, I have always still been someone that loved either you have the elite tight end or even at times what is now the H-back or fullback. I just still think that's huge when it comes to protection. It's a weapon when you use it, maybe 2 or 3 times a game when it comes to the fullback, H-back. But Baylor last year, with the offense that they run, with that wide zone, with what the quarterbacks need, the tight end position, to me, you can't have enough of them, and I've always thought the teams that had tight ends and use them properly are usually going to be very, very good. Not all of them, but I just love it. And it's another, and yet again, we're starting to see, and again, you can't sit there and say stars don't matter, because they always do. If you look at the teams and players who get the Super Bowls, those who are drafted, teams that win, that does matter. Now, there's on occasion those who outwork everybody, or at least find a way, no matter who they are recruiting, because of what they get, and get them on campus and how much better they can get, like Baylor and TCU under Gary Patterson for the longest of time, or Iowa State or others. But you start accumulating them enough, you never know. And Baylor's starting to get more of the 4-star type player commitments. It seemed like more often than they are the ones like, okay, who else was offering them? There's some big boy names. I mean, Josh White himself, which is not a high school commitment, and where he could have gone, leaving LSU or before he went to LSU, it's a huge list, no question about it. All right, the Master